I'm from Doolin, County Clare originally. As I say, down our way, that's where I was born, reared and starved. Before there was ever a tourist in sight. I'll start off with a small story. It's interesting, I'm one of two people here today from the speakers list that's from a commercial world. I think the other one's from the Mulroney Hotel. And it might be just an idea. I think this is a brilliant idea, by the way. It's so informative. There's loads of stuff I've already taken from this in relation to our area. I'm from the same area as Carol Gleeson, and we work closely together in the Burn, and we're planning to work much closer. She has been an inspiration. I have to kind of thank Clare County Council for generating all of this geopark and all of the stuff that goes with it. It's really exciting for us. Like it brings a lot of opportunity, but you know, we recognise that it brings huge pressures to the area around Doolin and the Burn. It's hard to believe that the Burn could be overcrowded. If we're not careful, you know, there's a danger of that happening. I suppose from the commercial world, it's important that I kind of give a perspective. There's a small story that some of you might have already heard about a guy that's fishing at his leisure in the canal around Fitzwilliam Street, and this stockbroker comes out and he's gobbling down a sandwich for his lunch, and he hasn't time hardly to talk to the guy that's fishing away there, and he shouts at the guy that's fishing. He said, "I was here yesterday eating my lunch," he said, "and I saw a massive fish over the other side there, so if you had a longer rod you could catch him." And your man said, "Yeah, and what would I do then?" He said, "If you got the big fish, you could get a big boat and you go down the river and have a net and you could catch loads of salmon coming up the Liffey." "Are you serious?" He said, "What would I do then?" Then he said, "You get a big factory ship and you could be a multimillionaire like the people up in Killybegs." And he said, "You could retire and take it easy." "Yeah," he said, "what am I doing now?" That's like the circle of life in relation to the commercialism. You come and you go. But I suppose what's important is what do you do in between. I was born and reared in Doolin, County Clare, and spent most of my youth around that area, around the Cliffs of Moher and the Burn and Doolin, and you know, it's just a nice area to have been reared. My early experiences, I remember we lived across the road from a creamery, and we had a petrol shop on that there, and I used to be a petrol pump attendant. And watching all of the donkeys and carts across the road every morning at the creamery, there'd be maybe 50, 100 donkeys and carts bringing the milk to the creamery. And we used to see these English and American tourists coming along in big cars. This is the early 60s. I was about maybe 7 or 8 years of age. And we see these visitors driving along in their big cars, and beautiful, immaculate cars from the British. In fact, they used to come along, nobody remember this, but how much they protected their engines was they adjusted the octane level of the petrol by, you'd have to shoot in octane into as they required it. Amazing, you'd never see those little cans of octane now that you inject into the petrol to protect the engines. But they used to come and take photographs of the creamery. And you know, there were enthusiastic business people there as well. There was a young farmer's son who I'd say shortly afterwards had a donkey in baskets, and he was charging for the privilege of taking photographs. So that kind of, you know, straight today you can see that, I listened to Carol earlier on, that, you know, an awful lot of our tourism is based on the natural environment, and we have a huge responsibility to protect that. Our family, we come from a fishing background, so we fished under the Cliffs of Moher. We fished for crab and lobster. Sorry, we fished for lobster, there was always a market for that in France, and we fished for salmon. And I remember before crab became, you know, an expensive delicacy, we used to just take the claws off the crabs and bring them in to the shore. We used to eat them ourselves, but there was no value in them. We couldn't sell them. But there was a local guy living in the castle now and again, a wealthy American who lived in Donegal Castle. And he used to help himself, you know, when he was entertaining his friends from America. He was a multi-millionaire tobacco farmer, a really nice fellow. But when he came along, when he'd see us coming in to Doolin with the fishing boats, and knowing that he could pick up the crab claws and entertain his guests, he was always there to take bags and bags of crab claws along and entertain his guests. it kind of still amuses me that when I got the idea of charging for these crab claws, that he seemed to lose the taste for the crabs immediately. We didn't see him after that. You know, back then fishing for salmon under the Cliffs of Moher, we used to fish with drift nets, and these nets were illegal a lot of the time. They were monofilament nets, so that they weren't very visible under the water. So the salmon would be flying along about their business, heading for the rivers, and they go straight into the nets, and they were an ideal way for catching salmon. Little did we realise that a lot of the salmon stocks along the west coast of Ireland and up into Scotland were being depleted by the actions of ourselves and others, bigger players than ours up and down on the coast. But finally that was put to a halt, and not before time, I can tell you, because the damage that was being done to the salmon stocks around the coast was phenomenal. And we didn't have the information at the time, and we were just going about our business making a living. But all of that has changed. Another dramatic effect it had, luckily we were stopped in our actions, was those nets also were responsible for the almost demise of the colonies of razorbills and puffins and guillemots at the Cliffs of Moher, because, as you know, these are purely and totally and wholly sea-based birds. And apart from coming on shore to breed and have their young, the puffin doesn't go to any other land. It just goes out to mid-Atlantic over the winter months and doesn't arrive in any other land. So they're native. The ones we have at the Cliffs of Moher and Doolin are native birds, and people don't realise that. But we were killing them in their hundreds and didn't realise the damage we were doing. Thankfully, again, we were stopped in our tracks by the ban on drift netting for salmon. And as a result of that, they were saved. Conscious of the changing trends in tourism and the need for a way forward for sustainable tourism, we transferred from fishing to tourism. And in 1999 we commissioned a new vessel, and today we run 4 vessels to go and bring tourists to the Cliffs of Moher to view and admire the beauty before them in those highly populated bird colonies. So, and as well as that, we say like that at the Cliffs of Moher, this idea of Cliffs of Moher cruise was invented by my brother PJ, and we say that from the top of the cliffs you see the sea. This is our tagline, by the way. I know Catherine Webster at the top of the Cliffs of Moher mightn't like it, but from the top of the cliffs you see the sea, which if you go out on a cruise, you actually see the cliffs. So that's our tagline that we kind of promote around the place. So now, conscious of our responsibility with the environment, and being educated by the likes of Carol and Tina and their group and the Geopark and all of that, we are playing an active role now, and we are hoping that we'll work much closer with the Geopark and all of that. And there is huge risks there at the moment. I remember the beauty that's down there is attracting a lot more tourists. It's attracted them. Is the 5 minutes? Is it, James? Sorry, about to move on. We'll move on then. We have run that since 1999. It has become very popular. There's a lot of attractiveness down there. It's a magnetism for tourism. And there's a lot of people that need that tourism down there. There's a lot of people paying big mortgages, and the more they bring. I think, by the way, that we're going to have to move to counting success, not by the amount of people on the seats, but the value and the return for each individual. I think that's the theme that we're going to have to move to. I know it doesn't, and we're going to have to increase. The only way we can do that is by increasing the cost of looking at these beautiful places. I don't know how we get to that, but we need to move pretty fast because it's been undersold. I remember being at a dawn chorus mass in Kirkham Row Abbey, which was given by the late great Father Donoghue. And a friend of mine said after the dawn chorus mass on Easter Sunday morning, he said, for the first time I've heard the beauty of the Burren. and the countryside. And like the fact that I'm one of two people from the commercial industry talking to you today, I think maybe it might be helpful if there was a couple more, maybe for the next time, because we need to hear people from this end of the spectrum speaking about the environment as well. We moved on to Dublin Bay cruises, and most of my adult life I worked in around Dublin and Dublin Bay. Like my early experiences in Clare, it's my strongly held view that the majority of residents and visitors to Dublin actually don't see Dublin. They see the city, and then they go out in the city towards the country, towards the west. They actually don't see the mountains, they don't see the bay, they don't see the Liffey, they don't see Bull Island, they don't see Dalkey Island, Killiney Hill, Howth, and the villages and towns along the coast. It's unexplored by tourists and by natives, believe it or not. So we started Dublin Bay cruises, and we are moving swiftly to bring more people out of the city and out to the towns and villages with Dublin Bay cruises. But we're setting out, there's one of the big problems why marine tourism hasn't happened in Ireland to any great degree, and especially in Dublin. Believe it or not, when I was setting up Dublin Bay Cruise, I thought all I had to do was go and find and finance a ship and then get the licence from the Department of Transport Marine Survey Office. How wrong I was. I had to deal with 14 agencies of the state. I'll just name them quickly, James. Department of Transport, a transport licence. Department of Tourism, Falch Ireland, extremely helpful but had to engage. Department of Justice, Garda, parking, traffic, etc. Department of the Marine, fishery harbour licence. Department of the Environment, Special Area Conservation. Dunleary Rathdown County Council, signage. Dublin City Council, DDDA, and there's a German company looking after the property around there to deal with them as well. Fingal County Council, the tourism and conflict with the harbour at Howth. Dunleary Harbour Company, passenger berth. Howth Fisheries Harbour, a passenger berth. Dublin Port Company, a shipping licence. Eastlink Bridge Operators, the bridge opening. Dublin Docklands Development Authority, a berth. Irish Lights, lighthouses. I had a lovely head of black hair before I started this business. Anyway, we got through it eventually, and we're there now, and we have a product in Dublin that's second to none. And we're now going to bring on board, I was listening attentively to the Untangling lady, I haven't got, Annabelle, yeah, I really want to engage with you because I want to educate people as to the benefits of seeing what's out there, and then they can go forward to protect it. They need to see it, experience it, and live it, and then they can have a deep an acute consciousness of what's out there, and then they can protect it and speak about it. Another issue, and I'll finish up with this, James. Dublin Docklands, the development of the Docklands from Sean O'Casey Bridge right down to Eastlink Bridge is about to explode as that's next phase of development. They're talking about putting a couple of bridges over. Traditionally, the only reason they built bridges in Dublin because the river got in the way. The river is the lung of the city. It brings 30 million tons of cargo in at the east side of it. It's the lung and it's the canal and the river that connects the city to the bay. They're talking about building more bridges over there. I worked on the Eastlink Bridge when they opened in 1980. I drove a tug on the river for 2 years. That bridge is opened and closed in 3 minutes. That was built 25 years ago. The iconic Samuel Beckett, designed by Calatrava, Spain, an iconic spectacle. It takes 6 men an hour and a half to open and close it. It has choked the Liffey between Sean O'Casey and Eastlink. That is one of the most beautiful stretches of river that's left in Ireland. I'm conscious if the development starts again, that again they'll give priority to traffic and they'll forget about the living bay and the river. So at any and every opportunity we get, we should be conscious of that and make sure that we don't make mistakes that are irreversible in the next 100 years. I'm finished, James. Almost finished. I'm quite passionate about a few things. I was hoping I'd get time, but time has run out. I was actually trying to fill 15 minutes for this, and there you are, it's gone. But anyway, I didn't flick forward, and I'm there's the Cliffs of Moher. I forgot about that, and there's the beauty. We still have this in Dublin. Everything you see on these clips we have in Dublin, but people don't realise it. You actually don't have to ship people from Dublin down to the west of Ireland all of the time. You could actually create the same thing in Dublin, and or a bit more of it. There's the boat out by Ireland's Eye. What a spectacle. It's an absolutely beautiful bay out there, and people should be more aware of it. Thank you very much. I'm absolutely thrilled to be invited to speak here today by James. I'm getting an awful lot from this, and I think, I think maybe a little bit more balance between the people that are speaking here today and maybe a couple of more businesses might be helpful. I'm not sure. I certainly would welcome the opportunity to speak again, because I am actually passionate about the country and our local areas. And I do think, speaker said earlier on, it has to come from the bottom up, because I spoke to the girl from Turkey there earlier on. She said that in the cities over there, they're conscious. They're conscious of the environment. In the rural towns and villages, they're not, and that's the sadness. In Ireland, in places like Doolin and Liscannor and all those places, Ballyvaughan, they are conscious, very, very conscious of the environment. So much so that there is questions being asked. I think what we have to do is not measure our success by the numbers we have gone through the place, but by the value that they leave. Thank you very much.